Rings of Power Episode 8, the show designed to make She-Hulk writers feel like they've got talent. We start with the wizard getting rained on. I don't know whether he's meant to look miserable and hard done by on the road, or whether he just spent so much time with the Harfoots he picked up their fashion sense. But always got an apple. I'm sure these high stakes have you on the edge of your seat. They sure do me, because he doesn't just have an apple. He sees Nori Brandyfoot, who runs away, starts chasing her, and drops the apple. Is it bruised? Will he ever find it again? Will he wash it before he eats it? These are the high stakes consequences of Rings of Power. Now somehow the apple has managed to roll down the hill and jump over a load of rocks. Turn your brain off, it'll be fine. But it gets stolen by Nori, and she decides to stop around the corner. Her eyes change, and oh no, it's Feminem, you never saw that one coming. Why did we even lure him over here? The wizard was on his own on a path, and we've lured him away, so he's now on his own on a different path. What was the point of turning into Nori, and why didn't we just approach him where he was standing in the first place? Now the real answer for that is so that you know that Feminem can shape change. We needed you to know that for later in the episode, but as for why it happened here, because the plot needed it to. I'm pretty sure the direction here was just look as evil as you can. Why do you still have the sooty hands from the meteor? It at least made sense that before you'd gone like digging into where he landed, but that was months ago. You've crossed thousands of miles of land at that point, hunting him across the earth. Are you telling me at no point did you wash your hands? What are you, a Harfoot? Why are you even offering the apple with those hands? That's like disgusting. He's not going to eat it after it's been in that filth. But the two other witches appear. Oh, this was an ambush that we led you into. Even though you're on your own, so we could have just walked up to you in the first place. Seriously, I don't know whether she's angry or has just seen a pack of Oreos. Yeah, if you believe that, you'll believe anything. How can we get people to be interested in Rings of Power? Well, have you ever considered a Sauron mystery box? It wasn't interesting in Wheel of Time, and it's not here. But it turns out, after luring him into an ambush, they just kneel in front of him. And if all it takes to get 3 women on the knees is to come down in a meteorite, I'm surprised more people haven't done it already. Why are you holding your hand up like that? It's just, please, somebody wash it for me. Oh no, am I evil? Having that guy not able to talk is a ridiculous choice for a series, because I actually don't care about him at all. Because he doesn't have a personality. But Halbrand and Galadriel have travelled thousands of miles with him bleeding out the entire way, and somehow he's alive. Nobody finds this suspicious. Yes, Halbrand, you're so injured that human medicine can't help you. Would you like to ride a few thousand miles on a horse? Galadriel's taking him to get elven medicine in an elven city, despite the fact that Arender's already said that elves don't have medics, they just have artists.
Are there healers among your kind?
There are, but we call them artificers. Most wounds to our bodies heal of their own accord, so render hidden truths as works of beauty. For beauty has great power to heal the soul.
We have medicine for the soul. So his wound won't get any better, but at least he'll get a nice landscape oil painting out of it. Every cloud. So Elrond's looking at Celebrimbor like he's a stack of breakfast pancakes, and Celebrimbor's wearing the same maternity wear which he's worn in every single scene he's ever appeared in for the entire show. But they're discussing what to do. Gil-galad's about to arrive. He's expecting results, and we have nothing to save the elves. And Celebrimbor's like, if only I could actually turn this tiny amount of mithril into more mithril, we'd be fine. That's right, we're about to go from we need to mine every ounce of mithril in this entire mine to, yeah, I think that'll probably do, as long as we add maybe a bit of gold to it in one episode.
If only there was some way of doing more with less.
Don't worry, dude, many men have asked the same question. I'm sure Elrond will be understanding. After all, it's not about the size of the boat. It's the size of the ocean. But it's like there must be a way. The sun itself used to be a small item. We must be able to transform this into something greater. Elrond's not quite convinced because that required the power of the gods. And they've just got Galadriel. And while she may have the ego and sense of entitlement of a god, she doesn't exactly have their powers.
We are out of time, Celebrimbor. We must inform the High King of our fate.
Oh look, it's the showrunner's self-insert. With that, they accept their defeat and decide the elves must abandon Middle-earth. But wait! Never fear, Satan's here!
Galadriel?
It's not exactly how I'd greet someone who must have swum back across the ocean from Valinor. What on earth are you doing here? You know, just something a bit more surprised. That's the kind of pristine, feminine look that I expect from Galadriel. Scholars used to comment about how the light of Valinor seemed to shine from her very hair itself, and now they talk about the muck on her face. But they say an enemy lance hit Halbrand 6 days ago, and they've been riding night and day to get here that quickly.
Can you help him?
No. Remember you said the elves don't have medics.
But we call them artificers. Most wounds to our bodies heal of their own accord, so...
The elves don't have medics, they have artists. Quick, this man's dying, I need a 6-foot statue. Stat. Don't think it's gonna help. So they decide the best way to treat him is to stand around and stare at him, Well, Galadriel fills in Elrond about him being the king of the Southlands, supposedly. The thing is, Elrond's got a rather important question.
How is it you are here?
Yeah, we did send you to the other side of the ocean. How did you get here? It's a very reasonable question with, I'm sure, a reasonable answer. Let's see what she says.
How is it you are here?
I hate this script. How did you get back across the sea, Galadriel? What are you doing here? What do you mean? He's always been here. You're the one that left, you moron. How did you get back across the ocean without a boat is a very reasonable question. Why aren't you answering him? Don't nod at her. She didn't even answer your question. The correct response there is, are you deaf? I said, how did you get here? Now, in defense of Elvish medicine, they have decided the best way to heal the wound on his side is to mop his brow with a cold towel. I can see why you brought him here, Galadriel.
We have much to discuss.
I mean, she didn't answer your last question. I don't know why you're bothering to ask her more.
I should have never have set you on that ship. I should have trusted you.
Anyone that's spoken to Galadriel would want to send her to the other side of an ocean. Don't worry, dude. No one's going to judge you for that one.
It is a mistake I will not make again.
I mean, you say that, but have you forgotten what you're going to do next? No, I promise. I'm never going to send you to Valinor again. Oh, that's great. So what are you and Celebrimbor planning to do with everyone on the elves? Well, we're about to leave Middle-earth and go to Valinor, so you're gonna have to come with us. That means his plan is for all the elves to piss off to Valinor while they leave Galadriel in Middle-earth, which, let's face it, is perfectly understandable.
I leapt from that ship because I believed in my heart I was not yet worthy of it.
You leapt from that ship because you were a lunatic.
I knew that somehow my task here was not yet complete.
How did you think drowning in the ocean was going to help you with that one, love?
And when I surfaced, all I could do was swim.
Yeah, that tends to be a very common problem when you're in an ocean. What were you expecting to do? Fly?
And pray I had chosen wisely.
No, you didn't choose wisely. You jumped to certain death in the middle of an ocean. Everyone knew it wasn't wise at the time.
I did not cross that bitter ocean, only to drown now.
I mean, you say that, but we could give it a good go if you want. That's a sacrifice I'm willing to make.
And nor will I let you.
You what? He's like, I'm sorry for sending you off, Galadriel. I'm not going to make that mistake again. And she's like, well, yes. I'm not going to let you make that mistake again. What are you going to do to him if he tries? Poor guy's just apologized to you, and what you just said comes across as a threat. I am never going to send you away. Yes, I won't let you. Galadriel, even when she's apologizing, she still manages to come across as a cow.
I have missed you.
Have you tried practicing your aim? Just make sure you don't miss next time. That's the key.
What are we to do?
The only thing we can do. Swim.
How does that make any sense? Your swim metaphor only counts when you jump into certain death in a stupid decision that has no grounding or basis in reality or logic. And Elrond's here asking for a plan, and you're just like, well, you know, we could just leap to certain death. No, that's a terrible idea. How about plan? Make a raft or something first. Your metaphors are horrible. But Celebrimbor's still walking around in his maternity gown when he hears a noise.
Who's there?
Elrond, is that you? I'm sorry, I can't go again yet. I still need to recharge. But no.
Who's there? Reveal yourself.
This is a really stupid line because it's not as if anyone's even hiding. You can even see Halbrand just standing out in the open here in full view of him. Reveal yourself, man. I can't see in this brightly lit room. Who are you, Muriel? But of course it's Halbrand asking for Galadriel, who's just happened to stumble into a forge completely accidentally and not by planning at all. But Celebrimbor says no, Galadriel's not here, and aren't you injured? Shouldn't you be resting? Isn't it a bit suspicious that you can just walk around as if you're perfectly fine in your frail mortal body? The Rings of Power hints are very subtle, but Halbrand's not interested in answering questions about himself, so just asks, what is this place instead? I really don't want people to think too much about how I can recover from a fatal wound so easily and just start wandering around.
This was the workshop of Celebrimbor.
The Celebrimbor.
I tell you, you give the guy one compliment and he starts looking at you like he's She-Hulk. It's Halbrand, not Elrond. Calm down, love.
He's not here, is he?
Oh, you sure know how to stroke a man's ego. Probably the rest of him. But after getting Celebrimbor on side, incredibly easy as it turns out, he gets a guided tour. Oh, Celebrimbor, I've always wanted to study underneath you. You don't make rings, do you? But things just keep getting stranger and stranger, to be honest.
These gemstones. I've never seen anything like them.
It's because they look like crap. Seriously, they've not even been cut properly. I thought elves were meant to be good at this stuff.
What do you plan to use them for?
Well, I'd throw them away if they look like that.
Feanor's jewel craft managed to capture the essence of Valinor. I had hoped to do the same for Middle-earth.
Celebrimbor not going to answer the question either then, is he? Okay. What are you going to use these jewels for, mate? Well, somebody else did a thing, and I was hoping to do an entirely different thing. Oh, that explains everything, mate. Cheers. You're going to cut them so they look nice? Nah, can't be bothered. But Halbrand notices the ore.
This is a peculiar
fire ore. What is it?
Not enough.
You didn't answer him again. Seriously, this is something that the show does all the time and it's incredibly annoying. Nobody actually answers the previous line.
Enough for what?
You don't even know what the ore is yet, mate. Get him to answer the first question first, can you? But Halbrand says, if this isn't enough ore, have you tried diluting it with other metals? And he goes, no, we can't dilute it because that would actually dilute the quantities that we need, which is why we want this ore in the first place. So Halbrand has a plan.
The risk of sounding a fool. Couldn't the right alloy also amplify those qualities?
Yeah, you heard that correctly. If this metal isn't enough, have you tried adding other metals? Well, we can't add other metals because it will distract from the ore. Ah, yes, but have you considered my counterpoint of adding other metals? Just because you suggested the same thing twice doesn't make your plan any better. But Celebrimbor isn't quite that smart.
Amplify.
Oh, I'd never thought of that. I never thought that metals could actually add to something rather than just take away from it. He's supposed to be a multi-thousand-year-old master of his craft, and he hasn't realized that alloys can actually also strengthen things, as well as make them weaker. Why have you turned Celebrimbor into a thick idiot?
Where I came up, precious metals were scarce as hen's teeth, so we learned to combine them, harness strengths, hide flaws.
Is that called making alloys, mate? I don't know what your point is. This is literally what an alloy's for. Why are you talking about one of the foundational principles of metalwork as if it's some advanced strategy no one's ever thought of before?
I've seen a trace of nickel added to iron to make a blade lighter and stronger.
Are we supposed to think that Celebrimbor doesn't know that combining metals gives them different properties? Is that what we're meant to believe? That Celebrimbor couldn't possibly have thought of a metal that would actually help Mithril rather than just damage it?
Might there not be some alloy to amplify the qualities of your ore?
And if there is, then how come you didn't think of this very basic idea before? But apparently no, Celebrimbor is a complete and utter moron and genuinely hadn't thought of this before.
Well, that is an intriguing suggestion.
Who knew that elves may be immortal, but their brains degenerate at the same pace as humans over time? A couple more years and Celebrimbor's will be dribbling out of his nose.
Call it a gift.
And me, the Lord of Gifts. Seriously, with subtlety like this, I'm sure nobody guessed what's coming. Back in Numenor, and Muriel's father is on his deathbed, they want to make a sculpture of him. And so artists from around Numenor are giving an hour to sketch him so that they can make a pitch of what art to use. This is an incredible storyline and one that goes absolutely nowhere for the entire episode. Seriously, I don't know why these scenes exist. This is your finale, but apparently they've got time to waste. We're going to grant him immortality in stone. But as she's drawing him, he seems to entirely lose his mind. He grabs her and starts ranting at her like she's Muriel. You have to bring back the old elvish ways or all of Numenor will be destroyed.
I know what you have been doing in the dark of night when you thought all eyes were asleep.
Calm down, dear. It's perfectly natural. What she does in the privacy of her own room is her own business. And obviously that panics her. Why is he calling me Muriel? This guy's losing his mind. I better call for help. And for some reason, while all these random strangers are around our royal family, there's no guards in the room, so she has to run to the stairs to yell for one. The thing is, she's screaming down the stairs, and nobody hears her there either. How far away are these guards? She could be doing anything to him. 100% there would be guards in the room or outside the door. At a push, slightly down the stairs. Apparently, no, they've just fallen asleep, gone on a pee break or something. Help! So with that, she runs back in the room, and he's vanished. He's quite spry for a total lunatic, but she notices he's opened a secret door to the Palantir. He looked too long at the future and now he can't separate it from the present. It's interesting that Muriel never gave that warning to Galadriel when she looked in it. But then again, it is Galadriel. Does anyone really care if she loses her mind? Either way, for some reason, she decides, yeah, I'm just gonna go up here in this magical object with this random raving lunatic next to me. This makes total sense. It's absolutely what some random architect would do. While we're on the subject, why is an architect drawing a picture of him to make a statue? That's something an artist or a sculptor would do, not an architect. She makes buildings, not people. But as she's done for the rest of the series, she just kind of stands around and stares at things. She's very good at it. Before eventually going up the stairs, finds the Palantir, and stares at it. She really is in her element. This is her forte, staring at things. But either way, she grabs the cloth, pulls it off, and that's her done for the rest of the series. No, I'm not joking. That's her entire storyline. I don't know why it exists. She might be one of the most pointless main characters of the entire season. Even Deezer contributed more, and she just basically turned into a Sith Lord at the end of the last episode. Back with Gilgalad, and he's weighing up the pros and cons of their plan. He's like, look, you want to make one magical object for every elf? If this was possible, why did you want us to mine all of the mithril in the first place?
One object for all Middle-earth.
I know it sounds strange, High King, but surely we should exhaust every possible solution.
I mean, okay, but if one item was possible, Why did we go around trying to mine all of the mithril in the first place? This seems like the vastly easier thing to do, doesn't it? But they discussed making a crown because that is a circle and reflects all of the light back in on itself, amplifying it, but giving all of the power to one person.
And you would place all that power upon the brow of one being?
I mean, at least he's detected the flaw in the plan. Look who he's surrounded by. Alrond is emotionally manipulative, Celebrimbor is just a power-hungry lunatic, and Galadriel's pure evil. In this company, I can understand why he's suspicious.
Not just anyone being High King. You.
Oh, well, that's alright then. As long as Gil-galad's gonna be the tyrant, I guess that's fine. You don't need to worry, dude. You'll be the one in charge. The writers won't understand the problem with that suggestion because the problem comes from a position of principle, not consequence.
Perilous are these whisperings.
If you feel like that now, imagine how bad it'll be when Galadriel speaks.
Sometimes the perilous path is the only path.
See what I mean? Galadriel's full of useful sayings. Sometimes you need to touch the dark to appreciate the light. Maybe the perilous path is the only one you should go down. It's basically the mutterings of an evil manipulator. Go on. Just be evil for a little bit, it's fine.
I would not be standing here otherwise.
You should not be standing here at all.
Based. Gil-galad's just like, why don't you piss off out of the show? We tried to get rid of you once. Instead, you decided to jump into an ocean. But Elrond just wants extra time. Give me 3 months and I can save us. Turns out, they don't have the time that they once thought.
Since the Mountain of Fire's eruption, the great tree is all but bleeding leaves.
Although they kind of mess up their timescale. He's like, we need to leave now. It's bleeding leaves. We just don't have the time. When that tree falls, we all fall. And Elrond thinks he can negotiate with this for some reason. You can't negotiate. It's a set time. When the tree dies, you die. But Gil-galad says, I would like to not leave, but this is too late. If we were gonna have a solution, then he needed it sooner.
Was to be our salvation. I'm afraid we needed it sooner. But I almost had it sooner.
I don't even know what he means by that, because he didn't. He had an entirely different plan to mine all of the mithril.
It was only in speaking with the Southlander that I realized. The low man? This idea was his? His?
Oh boy, the many faces of Celebrimbor. But it doesn't make sense. Yes, I almost had it sooner. I just needed the Southlander to tell me my own job. So you didn't have it sooner then? You only had it when you got it? I don't know why you thought, I'm so close to a solution. No, you weren't. You actually thought it was impossible until he told you the basic facts of metallurgy.
His suggestions were but the key that unlocked the dam.
I don't know if they did that deliberately. The key that unlocked the dam to creating the rings that could destroy the earth. After the key that unlocked the dam to create Mordor. I see it. But at this point, Galadriel starts to get really suspicious as he goes, we're on the cusp of crafting a new kind of power. The Sith Lords are everywhere.
We are on the cusp of crafting a new kind of power.
Unlimited power.
Not of strength, but of spirit. Not of the flesh, but over flesh.
The exact words that Adar used. So at this point, she should be very suspicious.
This is a power of the unseen world.
You what, mate? At that point, I kind of expected them to just do a flashback of Galadriel in episode 1.
These orcs were meddling with the powers of the unseen world.
But Gil-galad doesn't care. You are ordered to disband the city. You will return to Lindon immediately.
Those words, power over flesh, where did you hear them?
I was conferring with my smiths, I think. I believe those are my words.
Was Halbrand with you?
What does it matter?
Now, all of that is kind of explained later when it comes to Sauron's powers, but it's kind of a bit crap. Because you're like, well, he knows the words and he knows where they were said, so surely he can remember who told them him? We could have had some great script where Halbrand's going around dropping little hints to people, giving people little nuggets of information here and there, and then together it forms into a much bigger picture that nobody else can see. He's essentially effectively dissembled all of his master plan. That would have been cool, but a lot more difficult to write. So instead, we just get, he can magically influence people's brains and make them forget. It's boring, it's not impressive. But it is a hell of a lot simpler to write, which seems to be the key. That's why we get Celebrimbor just being confused about what he knew at all. But at this point, Galadriel has all of the information she needs to confirm who Halbrand is, and yet it's still not enough. Call me crazy, but if I thought Sauron was walking around next to me, I would tell people about it. So despite the fact that the tree is dying, Elrond thinks he can negotiate for extra time. Gil-galad, give me 3 months and I promise you we'll have a solution. I don't know why he thinks that 3 months is within Gil-galad's power to give him. The only thing that matters is how long the tree survives, apparently.
I am sorry.
Grant me 3 months. I am owed that much.
You are owed nothing.
You are entitled. to nothing. It's a bit like in other TV shows where the characters go around asking for what they deserve. It's like, trust me, you do not want what you deserve.
Do it not out of recompense. Do it because I asked you.
That's not really a good negotiation strategy, is it? Oh, Gilgalad, do you remember that night where we drank too much wine? Is that what you're appealing to?
It is a fool's hope, Elrond.
Hope is never mere, not even when it is meager.
A butterfly that flaps its wings can cause a hurricane across the other side of the world. I know you're going for grand, dramatic, and inspirational. I just don't really think it lands. But with that, Elrond gets the time and they set to work. They get the mithril and start trying to melt it and merge it with other items. Galadriel's decided to look really inconspicuous by just giving Helbrand dagger eyes from across the room. Subtle. So she goes after confirmation. I want all of the bloodlines you've got in the Southlands. I want to find out who the king's bloodline is. Because she realizes that all of her assumptions before were absolutely stupid. Because she assumed he was king because he had a pouch on him, and he specifically said it's not mine. Why are we even trying to confirm it when he's told you multiple times you've got the wrong person? You're the one forcing it on him. You must have known he wasn't king in the first place. I just thought you were using him so you had a leader you could easily manipulate down there. But in the background, we see Elrond chasing Celebrimbor. Trust me, it's not the first time. And Gilgalad has given him 3 weeks rather than 3 months.
Don't be afraid.
That's Rings of Power being subtle again. But Helbrand says, you know, I can hardly believe it. Someone like me being here surrounded by the elves.
Thank you, Galadriel.
For bringing you here.
I mean, I'm sure that's part of it. The guy gets 1 stab wound. You're like, quick, let's ride 600 miles to a place that doesn't have any medics. You're always full of such good ideas.
For saving my life.
I don't think she did save your life. If it wasn't for the script, you would have died a long time ago.
Our scales are balanced.
No, you've done far more than that for me.
Yes, Galadriel, you're just far stronger than I am. I owe everything to you, for I am just a man.
I'd all but given up, but you believed in me.
Yeah, that's not a good thing. We wanted him to give up. We wanted him to stay in Numenor and just become a smith. Meanwhile, Galadriel dragged him back to Middle-earth, back into the life he'd escaped. Don't give him that look, Galadriel. All of this is your fault.
You saw strength in me. You pushed me to heights that no one else could have.
None of this is a good thing, Helbrand. I preferred it when you were just asking for peace and to be left alone. I don't want to go back there to the evil that I will be made to do. That was your speech. No, you're like, you've made me so strong and powerful.
I will never forget that. And I'll see to it that no one else does either.
I mean, at this point, I'm Team Helbrand and Galadriel can get what she deserves. And let's be honest, with lines like that, it looks like she's about to. But we're back with the wizard, and they're trying to teach him the evil ways of Sauron. Look, we know your brain was wiped when you came down here, but as you get back your powers, you will remember. It's like we have been sent here to greet you, to bring you back to our lands, to take you to the constellation, the Hermit's Hat, that only exists where the stars are strange. Turns out Lenny Henry got something right after all.
A pattern visible in but one place.
I mean, that's not how stars work, but okay. We want to take you back to our lands, to Rune. This is where you'll be known at last as Sauron. I mean, for some reason, none of these people seem to realize that Sauron has been around and has a plan to turn the Southlands into Mordor. I don't know why, it was such common knowledge. It was even written down and sent to Numenor by a spy, so it can't have been that secret. But these magical beings have no idea. No, we're just gonna kidnap you and take you over to the east. But as they talk to him, he starts to lose control over his magic. Everything kicks off in the air, and so they put him to sleep.
Our Lord Sauron.
Don't have to look so pleased about it, mate. And so, as he loses control of his magic, she knocks him out. Apparently, all it takes is a bit of air being blown out of her filthy hand, and some really powerful dirt she's got on that thing. That must be a special ability of the Harfoots as well. I wonder if it's how they kill their prey. They just get paralyzed by toxic fumes. But they say in time he will learn to master his magic. But for now, we will bind him. And then they sense something. That'll be Lenny Henry then. They're trying to come up with a plan on how they can get the wizard back. I'd say I hope they're downwind so no one can spell him, but those people reek so bad it probably doesn't matter where they are. There ain't no hiding when you reek that bad. But she notices, hang on, there's only 2 of them and they're tying him up. Now's the time to move when one of them's left and we have absolutely no idea where that person went. That sounds like a great plan. I can't see anything going wrong here.
Third one's gone. Where'd the third one go? Better 2 than 3.
Yes, but they're all warriors and mages. What do you think you can do with 2 of them? It's like saying you've only got to fight 1 dragon. So the hobbits come up with a complex plan of making noise. Yeah, if I blow in a whistle, it'll distract both of them. Seriously, I think you've been playing too much Metal Gear Solid, mate. That doesn't actually work in real life. Quick, we've heard an owl. better leave our guard post. But for some reason, both of them do, and they sneak in to try and undo the wizard. For some reason, neither of them have a knife to just cut the ropes, so they're desperately trying to undo the knots. How are you actually a group of people that go around foraging in the wild and don't even have a knife? I can understand you not having swords and stuff because you never fight, but knives are useful tools, not just weapons. Instead, they're just going to struggle. Meanwhile, the mother falls over, finds a massive foot, which is attached to a second wizard. Oh yeah, you remember that overlong and entirely pointless scene right at the start, where she shape changed? That's only to explain this moment, as it served no point at the time. But it turns out it's all a trap, and the wizard is a witch. Lenny Henry has the great idea of just giving her a hug.
Run!
You run, I'll hug her. Again, knife might come in useful just in case you couldn't actually run away like a coward. So Nori runs very slowly because she's wearing prosthetic feet. Not gonna get far like that, love. But one of the fighters comes around the corner, yeets a knife at Nori, except it flies past her head because she wasn't the target, and takes Lenny Henry in the chest. All those gigs in the 70s not looking so bad now, eh? I thought I'd be in for more than one season. Oh well, I mean, I do wonder if crapping on your entire fan base in the press just for one season of a TV show was worth it, but hey, I suppose you got your pieces of silver. I hope they're worth it, Lenny. But with that, they catch Nori and lob her to the ground for some reason. For some reason, though, instead of using all of the knives and magic that they have, they take a really long time to do anything to the main character. Seriously, I was half expecting a speech about their evil plan just to buy extra time it was going on that long. But then, just in the nick of time, the wind picks up. Our wizard wants a rematch. 1v3? Seems fair. Nori runs off with the other Harfoots, and he's finally realized, oh yeah, I might be able to control this magic, I should probably do something with it, and blasts them. Unfortunately, the one with the staff is far more powerful. Really tried to make that look dramatic, didn't you? But unfortunately for the wizard, she proceeds to beat the crap out of him. Turns out, staff beats no staff and just starts lobbing him into rocks. For some weird reason, she keeps tilting him from side to side at the same time. Don't know why. Hey Dave, remember when we employed all those wire workers? We probably should find an excuse to use him at some point, shouldn't we? Like, literally, you get this scene. He's on his left, so she then tilts him round to his right, and then blasts him backwards with him facing on the right. There's literally no point for her to have flipped him 180 degrees horizontally. It doesn't change anything. Blast him into the rocks. At least that bit does look like it'd sting. Now, unfortunately, or fortunately, as it turns out, because these are the Harfoots, and quite frankly, the less of them are in the world, the more good actually happens. The Harfoots exude so much evil that even their mere presence in the world seems to strengthen Sauron. So this is essentially evil fighting evil. But she's about to wipe out the Hobbit, which I never learned her name because, quite frankly, I don't care, when Lenny Henry springs up out of a tree. For some weird reason, though, he does this first, which seems to ruin his entire plan. Why did you whistle before you jumped out and surprised her? Why didn't you just jump out and surprise her? The whole point of surprising people is that they don't hear you coming. You're not supposed to announce yourself with a whistle first, you lunatic. But either way, Lenny Henry's been watching Rings of Power, and he uses the masterclass of a move that we've only ever seen used once before, and was incredibly successful when it happened the first time. He's got both a knife and surprise. This is gonna be a great move. Yeah, take that, foot. Remember when Bronwyn did the exact same thing in the village? Whenever you're having a fight and you take someone by surprise, always go for the least lethal thing possible. Why would you want to safely take out an enemy when you can basically do no damage to them? But during this, the wizard is getting absolutely annihilated. That's definitely gonna sting. The weird thing is, just as she's about to actually put the wizard down for good, this happens. I'm not really sure getting hit by a tiny little rock will be that big of a deal, to be honest. I'd still do what I was doing. Oh no, a slight annoyance. Better forget what I was doing with the far more lethal person, and instead worry about these tiny people in trees lobbing fruit at me. Oh no! You gently knocked my head. Although somehow she drops a staff from that thing. Honestly, I have no idea how. Does mean that the Harfoot nicks it though. Either way, instead of dealing with the very dangerous wizard which is on the ground, she decides I better take care of these minor little pests and trees. Always good to have your priorities straight in a fight, I find, yes. Yes, go for the least dangerous people first. That's definitely gonna work out well for you. So she goes out, grabs fire, and just starts setting the entire place on fire. There's some for you, and you. There's a bit of the set which isn't on fire, better lob some over there for no reason. Honestly, I'm surprised this screenshot didn't come with a little warning label at the bottom about the danger of forest fires. But the wizard's just lying there on the floor feeling sorry for himself. Oh no, woe is me! Woe is me! To the point where Nori has to come up to him with the staff.
We need you. Please just take it.
and just start begging him to help her. This is a guy who's meant to be good, and he's like, oh no, but my hurt fifis. As someone desperately begs me for their life.
Get away from me.
No, is his answer. Yeah, this is She-Hulk all over again. Look, I do have the power to save you. I just can't be arsed. What a wonderful fella. There really is a thing in modern day Hollywood where they make all of these main characters which are entirely insufferable, and you can't like them because they never do anything heroic. I'm just gonna sit here and die.
I will hurt you.
Oh no, I can't use my magic. I'll hurt you. No, you don't hurt them. They keep interfering when you do magic. There is a difference. The lesson of the piece is that all the Harfoot should piss off as far as possible whenever you're doing magic. But that's on them, not you.
What have they done to you?
Well, they lobbed him into a few rocks.
They showed me what I am.
But they're like, oh, they showed me what I am.
Only you can show what you are. You choose by what you do.
I mean, that's a nice message and all, but it's not something the showrunners believe, is it? A person is what their actions show them to be, not what other people label them as. So it'd be very strange then if the showrunners came out and just started slandering and attacking the fans then, wasn't it? Trying to label them as something they're not. Something their actions directly prove they're not. Honestly, you can put all of this stuff in your TV show, but when outside the show you do something entirely different, it does make you look like a bit of a div. But the woman cosplaying as a fox has found the Harfoots and cornered them. They're all about to die, but luckily they're moving in slow motion, so they last longer. Yeah, they're moving in slow motion while Nori is moving at normal speed.
You're here to help.
It's a good job they've got that 2x time differential, otherwise those Harfoots would have died a long time ago. All I'm saying is if someone has magical powers and they can save my friends, they better not be lying on the floor feeling sorry for themselves for absolutely no reason. So just as the wizard is about to find out what Kentucky Fried Harfoot tastes like, honestly, she better wash him first, he gets the staff and extinguishes the fire everywhere. Turns out to master his magic, all he needed was a funny shaped twig, and now he can easily 1v3.
From shadow you came. To shadow I bid you return.
I mean, it sounds like you're asking them. I bid you farewell, good fellow. That's when they realise, hang on, this guy isn't Sauron. Wait, if you've only just realised he's not Sauron now, why were you beating the crap out of him before? Because it looked like you were going to kill him, but I thought you actually liked Sauron.
I'm good.
Take you all day to think of that line, did it? I'm good. I talk like a 3-year-old. It really was a horrible choice to not have him talk. It means you've had an entire series with no one caring about his character at all, because he didn't have a personality. Well done. But with that, he shines bright like a diamond, blasts them with it, and we get the wannabe Nazguls. Women can be evil murderers too. Empowerment! But as he blasts them, they turn into butterflies, or moths, one of them, and fly off. Along with his staff. Honestly, she's standing next to him while he did magic again. It's surprising she's not calling him evil again like she has done every other time he's tried to help her in the show. But the Harfoots celebrate not actually being cooked, and it turns out that just because they forgot that he got stabbed, he hasn't. Oh no, it's me, Lenny, and I'm about to fall off the path. Look, this is a first for the Harfoot. First time any of them have died to someone who isn't one of their own.
I'm afraid I'm about to go a-wandering off-trail.
Look, at least none of them took your wheels and tried to deliberately murder you like you were gonna do. She's even in tears. Is this supposed to be an emotional moment? Because all you've shown us previous in the series is how evil he is. No, I'm not gonna feel sorry for a guy that actually considered murdering a family for no reason whatsoever. Oh no, sorry, there was a reason. They didn't find as many mushrooms in the forest as they did last year. You'll have to forgive me if this doesn't carry any emotional weight.
The missus will be waiting.
Or what did you do to her? Throw her off a cliff? So they decide to sit with him and watch his last sunrise together. And we have one less Harfoot in the world. No wonder the sun came up to celebrate. So the Numenorians are sailing home, and for some reason they seem to only have one ship this time. Are you telling me that in that tiny little town with barely a battle, you lost 2/3 of your army? There was barely any orcs there. How did 2/3 of your army die? You really have not done a good job of presenting, like, numbers and casualties. Because it looked like you barely lost anyone in the fight, and then barely lost anyone to the volcano. Largely because all of your main characters survived it. And if all of those people survived it, and they're just supposed to be normal people, they're not supposed to have plot armor, then you would assume that all of the soldiers did as well. So why are you only coming back on one ship when you left in 3? Could you not afford the CGI to copy and paste the other 2 onto the water? But Elendil is in the boat, and Miriel is trying to practice walking while blind, counting the steps. Honestly, I don't know why she's that fussed. Everyone knows you're blind, and if they didn't, then I'm still not sure why you're that bothered. But Miriel gives him an offer that, given your loss of your son, I can understand if you'd want to take a leave of duty.
You once asked me why I pulled Galadriel from the sea.
This is going to be one of those things where you don't answer a question, isn't it? Do you want to take a leave of duty? Do you know what my name means? These two things aren't linked in any way.
I claim to have had little choice. But the truth is, I could have left her there.
And should have left her there, as you finally came to the realization in the last episode. I should have left that elf in the sea. Yes, you should. The television series would have been vastly improved if evil Galadriel hadn't been brought aboard.
Could have refused to follow her to Middle-earth, or stop my son from doing so. Yet at every turn I made the choices I did because...
Why, Elendil?
And why should I care?
Because Elendil does not merely mean one who loves the stars.
Yes, okay, it also means elf friend. But what does any of this have to do with her question of, do you want to take a leave from the army? It was a yes or no question, mate. It's not this complicated. But Muriel says her father gave her some advice, and it might be some of the most awful advice I've ever heard in my entire life.
My father once told me that the way of the faithful is committing to pay the price, even if the cost cannot be known, and trusting that in the end it will be worth it.
That's really awful advice. You know, what you should do in life is just go along, and if anyone asks you to do anything, just go, yeah, I'll do it, at whatever cost. Doesn't matter. Yeah, if you're ever going to sign a contract, don't bother reading it first for any of those pesky clauses. Just assume that in the long run, it'll definitely work out for you. Don't do any due diligence, just go for it, it'll be fine. Muriel's a lunatic. But Elendil in this episode is an entirely different person than he was at the end of the last episode.
Sometimes the cost is dear. We have little choice then but to keep serving.
What happened to we should have left the elf in the sea? That's the Elendil I liked. Who is this guy and what have you done with the last actor? Why do characters in this show just turn into entirely different people for absolutely no reason at random points in the episodes? Is not the same character as the one we saw in the previous scene of the last episode. Nothing has happened in the meantime to make him change anything. We went from I should have left the elf in the sea to, yeah, you know, we should follow the elf to anything no matter what price it costs. Why can you not remember what your own characters are doing in your own show? Why can you not remember their personalities? Why are you writing them as just initiators of the next scene, rather than people with their own personalities and beliefs, which will inevitably cause them to act in a predictable manner over time?
And I, for one, will see to it that we make the end worth the price.
What happened to leaving the elf in the sea? But they arrive in Numenor, and all of the boats have got a black flag up. For a royal has died. I will say though, that's a lot more boats than they claimed to have last time when they could only send 5. It does also beg the question of when those other 2 blew up, why didn't you just replace them with any 2 from any of these? He has breathed his last. Meanwhile, back at the forge... Probably not a good sign. Yeah, I mean, the entire room blew up, but for some reason, everybody's alive. Galadriel asks what happened, and Celebrimbor comes out with one of the most stupid lines I've heard.
The Mithril is proud. It refuses every effort to bond it with lesser ores.
That's right. Mithril's a snob. I don't want to sully myself in the presence of any of those peasant ores. You can tell it was created by an elf. Interestingly, though, one of the tools they use is melted into the rock, just like happened in Sauron's castle, I guess you'd call it.
Powers of the seen and unseen world seem to soften the boundaries between the two.
Thank you, Elrond. Although for Galadriel, this is just another sign that Sauron's here. Bearing in mind she basically already knew he was here before, and now this must be incontrovertible proof. Halbrand has literally pushed them down the same path that Sauron was going down before that she uncovered. So what are you going to do, Galadriel? Are you going to tell the people next to you that Sauron is in the building or not? So that's what a good person would do. But they're confused. We used so much force to try and force them together. Why didn't it work? And Halbrand's like, hang on, maybe we've been using too much force. Maybe we should actually treat the Mithril with respect. Yes, it seems like this is a Mithril with some kind of its own sentience or something. You've got to coax it, allure it, you know, get it in the mood for it to actually merge with other metals. It's not She-Hulk, it's not going to merge with metals just for half a plate of chips. You've got to wine and dine it a bit first. And of course, Halbrand is the one to work it out.
Supposing we've been using too much force.
Meaning that the metals shouldn't be forced to join, but more drawn or coaxed.
They just want to be taken to dinner first. So with their new plan, they immediately start to rebuild the forge. I don't know how they're going to do that. They literally blew out 2 windows in the roof, but, you know, let's go again, folks. And Galadriel gets a message from the person who was looking up the Southland lineage, which Halbrand sees. And with that, she knows. I mean, she knew before, but now she's got to be like doubly, triply, quadruply certain, right? So you're going to go and tell somebody, right? There's no other option. Right? Evil Galadriel strikes again. Because Halbrand appears to talk to her about the forge. But he says we're using too much power for one item, so we're making two. We can't make two crowns, but we're making something smaller.
Come, see for yourself.
Not until you tell me who you are.
I mean, now you come to mention it, it's interesting how you've never really asked him who he was before. You just kind of assumed who he was all of this time when he was saying, I'm not him.
You know who I am.
Who you really are.
Galadriel, I'm afraid I don't...
There is no king of the Southlands.
Well, duh. He never claimed to be king of the Southlands. You kept telling him to be the king of the Southlands. He said he found the pouch on a dead man, and you kept pushing. All of this is your fault and originated inside your own head. Quite frankly, I don't know why you're blaming him for it.
The line was broken.
Yes, he said so. He found it on a dead man. Most people would have taken that to mean he killed them.
The last man to bear your crest died over 1,000 years ago.
Never thought to look this up before, no.
I told you I found it on a dead man.
He's been perfectly honest about it the entire way through. I don't know why she kept thinking he was lying to her, it's weird. If Galadriel wasn't convinced that she was the most intelligent person on Earth, while simultaneously being the most ignorant, then none of this would have happened. Instead, Galadriel literally created Sauron. Of course, all this is followed by something which literally doesn't make sense unless you forget you've actually seen the show.
No, on the raft, you saved me.
On the raft, you saved me.
What? I'm sorry, but there's got to be a clip of that. How can you forget what happened in your second episode? We're gonna need one of them whiteboards with pictures, pins, and pieces of string to work this one out, because you're gonna have to spin one hell of a story and jump through so a lot of hoops to ever work out how on earth Galadriel saved him on that raft. She was the one on the water, he was the one that went down and stopped her from drowning, and the only thing she ever did to help him during that entire time was to grab his hand and pull him onto the raft, which he could have very easily climbed up on his own. I've thought about this for a while, and the only way I can make his comment make sense is if he's saying that some kind of god saved them, and that one of the Valar pushed their raft into connection with the Númenórean boat, and it wouldn't have done that for Sauron, but because she was on the raft, the Valar still decided to help them, and therefore helped Sauron as well. And this, as far as I can think, would be a very good explanation. It's just a shame it's not in the show. All of that is made up headcanon to try and explain that stupid line. But there is absolutely zero evidence for it from the actual show itself. And if we go off just what they've told us in the show, then it just means they can't even remember what happened in episode 2. And quite frankly, that seems the most likely, as now Halbrand is an entirely different person, and all of the actions which he was saying before, which he had no reason to fake acting about, because he was doing them when he was on his own, now all of this is being rewritten as well. Gone are the things of, oh, I just want peace, I don't want to go back to evil. Now he's just apparently just fully embraced it. So Galadriel's spinning, oh, you helped me convince the Númenóreans to come back to Middle-earth. He's like, no, I wanted to stay over there, love. Oh, but you came over here to help me defend the Southlands. I came over here to help you fight Adar, your enemy, and mine. For some reason, the show doesn't bring up the point that he wanted peace in Númenor and would have stayed there and not turned to evil. But Galadriel has made him come back and made him turn to evil.
Tell me your name.
I have been awake since before the breaking of the first silence.
That's not an answer, dude. Why can no character in this show just answer a question?
In that time, I have had many names.
Okay, but what is the name that you're currently known by? This isn't difficult. But at this point, Galadriel gets the moment that she's always wanted. She's come face to face with Sauron himself, and so she tries to stab him. Remember, this has been her sole focus for hundreds of years, so you'd think she'd actually be good at it, to the point where if she ever met him, she'd win. That'll be a no then. Who could have thought that the tiny woman hunting someone 2 foot taller than her could possibly have lost in a fight with him? It's almost like her plan was entirely useless from the start. Just turn your brain off, it'll be fine. And with that, we go into the weird territory, and this is something which I entirely despise. Because what could have been done with clever script writing, dissembled hints across multiple people, and various different political wranglings, has now been replaced by magical powers and dream states. That's how Galadriel gets sent back to the first episode with her brother. At first, she realizes what's happened and fights against it. She doesn't believe that that's her brother, refuses to look at him.
Get out of my mind.
But eventually breaks down and gives in. Oh, I just miss you so much that I'm more than willing to have Halbrand in my face. Just casually disarming her at the same time.
My old dagger. You've kept it safe all this time.
Yeah, because what would I be without it? Of course, while he's in his head, he's basically trying to convert her to the dark side. He starts trying to tell her that, oh yeah, I wasn't actually fighting Sauron all that time. No, Sauron, he just wanted to heal the universe. That was it, basically. He's kind of a hippie when it comes down to it. He just wants to have peace and free love for everybody. And rule them, but peace. Remember peace?
No, Galadriel. He was seeking a power, not to destroy Middle-earth, but to heal it.
Yeah, that sounds like Sauron, alright. You know, the same Sauron that wanted to blow up a volcano, even if that volcano didn't actually kill anybody, somehow. Maybe that's how they survived. It was just a peace and free love volcano. But he does slip up when he says, Galadriel, do you remember what I whispered in your ear under this tree?
Touch the darkness once more.
May have been a little bit blunt on that one, mate. You didn't even tell her that a ship floats because it looks upwards and a stone sinks because it looked downwards. How is she supposed to believe you without a physics lesson? Because that is what snaps her out of it.
My brother is dead.
That's not very nice. He's sitting right in front of you, love. So she realizes that he is actually Sauron in her mind.
Galadriel, come back to Galadriel.
So she gets teleported into another dream sequence, which I'm pretty sure is custom made to annoy me. Oh look, we're back on the boat where she saved him somehow. Anyone have any ideas on how they can explain that one? Because seriously, I still don't. He's desperate to convince her that no, you just need to come with me. Together, we can rule the universe in peace and free love and harmony. Oh, with a message like that, I just want to burst into song. Like a Harfoot.
You know who I am. I am your friend.
You're a friend of Morgoth's.
I mean, yeah, but with the way you behave, you might be as well. Let's not pretend that Galadriel is a good guy in this TV series. And that seems to have been the point, so that we can ship the two evil people together. You've got a husband, dear, come on. But he says, when Morgoth was defeated, I felt freedom for the first time. I finally felt the light of the One again. And I knew that if I was going to be forgiven, I'd have to heal all of that which I damaged. And I can only do that by ruling it, presumably.
No penance could ever erase the evil you have done.
I mean, you say that, but you basically created Sauron. He was happy forging in Numenor, and you dragged him back into his evil life. No penance can ever cure what you have done.
It's not what you believe.
Do not tell me what I believe.
Why not? You've spent the rest of the series telling everyone else what they should believe.
After our victory, you said that whatever I'd done before, I could be free of it
You
now.
deceived me.
Did you deceive him? Because you did say whatever he had done. You didn't give caveats. Yes, but you lied to me. Well, apparently you were lying to him then, if you're saying actually he can't have left his past behind.
I told you the truth. I told you that I had done evil, and you did not care.
That's because she was thinking about half a plate of chips.
Because you knew that our past meant nothing.
No, your past means everything. It's incredibly naive to think it doesn't.
Weighed against our future.
Join me, and together we can rule the dark side. Seriously, what is this? Whatever it is, it's not Tolkien. You know Tolkien, that story about good and evil. Where is any of that? But she says, no, I will never love you, Sauron. Oh, is there no future for us? What if I use my magic to make an image of us in the sea together? What about then? You know, the sea is always right. I hate literally everything about this dream sequence scene. Everything.
All others look on you with doubt. I alone can see your greatness.
I mean, that is at least a savvy move, appealing to her incredible sense of arrogance. Oh, the woe is me! The world always thinks that they know best when I am Galadriel and I know best, always. And that is how I turn to the dark side, to the power of the Sith. Why does it all just feel very Star Wars? No, Galadriel, I have the high ground. I can sense the midichlorians in you, Galadriel. And this is the scene where we just get creepy close-ups of them for about half an hour. I mean, it's good for thumbnails, but I'm not sure it's good for the show. It's like, but you would make me a tyrant. You're already a tyrant, Galadriel. He would just enable you to be a tyrant over more people. He's like, but you would be the Dark Lord. No, Galadriel, not with you. You could bind me to good, and I would bind you to power. And with that, he kind of stupidly decides to give her dagger back. It's like, she's not on your side yet, mate. What if she just stabs you with it? I know you want to stab her as well, but hers is probably more lethal.
And I bind you to power.
Together, we can use more cliches than any other couple has in all of history.
Together, we can save this Middle Earth.
Save or rule?
I see no difference.
Did you write that one on the back of a beer coaster at a pub? I mean, come on. No, Sauron, you were supposed to save Middle-earth, not leave it in darkness. It's also worth noting at this point that she could have done anything with that dagger, and yet she decided to just gently rest it on him and not do anything. Every single deed that Sauron does from the previous point forward where she brought him to Middle-earth is her fault. This is her way of stopping him doing anything in the future, and it's still going to be her fault. Yes, it's a dream world, it may not do anything to him, but it's still worth a try.
And that is why I will never be at your side.
Okay, but why aren't you moving that blade a little bit? This is your one chance to do what you've supposed to have been trying to do for hundreds of years. Why are you scared to do it now? Why can't we stick to the Galadriel character we've had for the rest of the series?
You have no choice.
So Sauron changes his mind. You have no choice, you must obey me. They just start screaming at each other, and once again we go back to collecting thumbnails. The elves cast you out without me. You have no way of saving them. They won't even provide you a few petty soldiers to fight me with. I actually don't know why I'm using this as an argument. This is weird. What will they do when you tell them you've been an ally of Sauron?
Tell them that Sauron lives because of you!
This is true. Why did you not tell them that Sauron lived previously? This is the first and only time as well that anyone actually admits that Galadriel caused Sauron and that everything Sauron does is her fault. What do you want to bet that in the future they retcon it, that Sauron is actually lying and he's just trying to guilt trip her into it? And somehow it's not her fault at all. She was just following her fifis. Like I say, there's a lot of thumbnails in this one. It's like, you will die because of me. Peak acting, act harder. So she eventually stabs him and then somehow ends up back under the water, which is where Halbrand saved her from before. So again, why did Halbrand say that she saved him when it's not true? But just as she's about to pass out in the water, Elrond saves her from drowning. Although it doesn't look like she was ever about to drown because, as we can see, her face was clearly above the water. She repays Elrond by immediately trying to stab him in the face. Don't you just love the character of Galadriel? She's really nice, very feminine. She's like, it's Elrond, prove it to me. And he's like, well, I remember when we first met. I was but a little half-elf. You gave me water. I don't care.
Seaside, when I was first orphaned, I was alone.
At no point does he think this is weird. Why are we not investigating why she's turned into a stark raving lunatic who's about to drown herself in a river? These are questions you should probably ask now. Instead, we just leave and go to the workshop. Don't worry, nothing important happened here.
Galadriel, what has happened?
That's the only time we're ever going to ask about that question. He stops, pauses, turns around and thinks, maybe I should investigate this area? Nah, why would I bother doing that? The elves in this show really aren't very smart, and they've been around for thousands of years. Again, I think we're just getting back to that brain degeneracy over time, so Celebrimbor is getting ready to, achieve his mission.
Galadriel, you're as wet as a river rock. Why?
Because I pulled her from the waters of the Glanduin.
Okay, but are we going to find out why you needed to do that? When someone asks why are you soaking wet, they don't mean where are you, they mean how did it happen?
The Glanduin? What happened?
That's an important question. Should we get an answer to that?
Galadriel?
Galadriel?
Where is Halbrand?
Why did you ask another question? I want you to answer the first one first.
He's gone.
Again, that's not what his question meant. He meant, what has Halbrand done to you? Because I know he was the one that caused you to be in the river. Him being gone doesn't answer the question.
And I doubt he will return. And should he ever, none of us are to treat with him again.
Okay, what did Halbrand do to you? It's still the question that was asked and you haven't answered it yet. This is really annoying.
What happened by that stream?
Thank you. Don't let her get away with it.
You spoke to me once of a mistake.
Oh no, don't do this. You're not going to answer the question, are you? You're just going to start talking about another random point in time, which is entirely unrelated to the scene. And then you're never going to answer the question. What did Halbrand do to you?
You spoke to me once of a mistake. When you said you would not make again.
Yeah, he said he would never send you away again.
You are making that promise very difficult to keep.
It's true. I have met her. I'd always want to send her away again.
Were it easy, it would not require trust.
Trust is meant to be easy because you're meant to be trustworthy. You're not trustworthy because you lie all of the time. The current situation you are in right now isn't one that anyone should trust you in because you're about to do incredibly evil things. But despite the fact that none of them have got an answer to what has Halbrand just done, they just ignore it and walk off because nobody cares about the thing that just happened despite the fact that she's soaking wet and something horrible's happened. Yeah, we're just going to forget that and move on. It's fine. So Celebrimbor's like, should we proceed? She's like, no, we must make 3 rings. 1 person can be a tyrant, 2 can divide, but 3 brings balance to the force. Galadriel is the person who comes up with the ideas for the ring. Yes, back to the books, back to the books, back to the books. That's apparently what they said. Don't know which books they were referring to, but whatever the ones, they weren't Tolkien's.
With 3, there is balance.
Let's bring balance to the force. Anakin, fetch the Padawans.
Powers we forged today must be for the elves alone, untouched by other hands.
I don't know, Galadriel, you sound like a bit of a bigot. But then Celebrimbor says it's the purity of the lesser ores which is causing the Mithril to actually reject it. It's a snob. It doesn't want to mess around with any of those kind of peasant metals. I need gold and silver of the most pure. I need it straight from Valinor. I need your dagger. Because for some reason, the elves don't have any other gold or silver from Valinor at all. The only gold and silver that exist in all of Middle-earth from Valinor is in her dagger for some reason. Nobody else brought any weaponry from Valinor. Nobody else brought jewelry. No, nothing with them at all. Definitely got to be her dagger. Just not a massive coincidence which will fulfill her entire story arc for this series. That you've just arbitrarily decided she's the only one with golden... Okay, fine. Turn your brain off. It'll be fine. Sorry, I began to think about the TV series and I should have known better. I should have known better than to try to make it make sense.
Gold and silver from Valinor.
Don't you kick off with that music with me. It doesn't make you sound impressive when you've done something this stupid. I said don't kick off with the music.
True creation requires sacrifice.
Okay, Celebrimbor, look, I know that's a reference to the earlier episode, but seriously, have you realized what you've just said? Celebrimbor's like, yes, we must make the rings, and that requires the cost of your dagger. I know that's a great sacrifice for you, but that's a price I'm willing to pay. Everyone in this show is horrible and disgusting and immoral, but we avoid that. We go back to the Harfoots. This is a scene that goes on for about 10 minutes, and nothing happens in it. It's all one big long goodbye. The wizard's leaving, and Brandyfoot wants to go with him, Nori. And so people give her a backpack and food, and she leaves. This is their discussion where he says, I'm going to Rune, which we already knew from a previous scene, but for some reason we've got to say it again. They called you Istar. Oh, in the language of the hobbits, that means wizard. He starts talking about how Iluvatar has laid a path out before him, and it's his job to have his feet go where his hearts cannot follow. The Harfoots also understand this because their hearts are bigger than their feet. What a wonderful show. But the most evil Harfoot is now the new trail person, and she's crap at it, getting it all wrong, maps upside down. She gets corrected by Nori's friend.
Well, if you're so quick and wise, why didn't you do the trail finding?
And then she looks so pleased with herself. Oh, I'm gonna be the trail finder.
Nobody goes off trail! And nobody walks alone!
And we promise we'll only murder half of you. So her family say, go on, we know you want to go off with the wizard. Piss off, we don't want you anymore. Look at these people, they're dangerous enough already. You don't want to come with us. You're far safer out there with the trolls than you are with the Harfoots. So they give her this backpack, which looks absolutely horrible, to be honest. You have cloth. You would have thought you could have made bags instead of whatever that monstrosity is. And so off she goes, except the goodbyes last forever. I keep skipping it, seriously, it never ends. Literally nothing is said during any of this stuff. We're still going.
Eleanor Brandyfoot, always follow your nose.
Oh, piss off. I don't know whether that's meant to prove it's Gandalf or whether it's just an Easter egg, but even if it is just an Easter egg, then you can still piss off. You don't need to look so smug about it either, dearie. So off they go. The Harfoots march 2 by 2. That way it's far easier to pick off the ones at the back and no one will notice. The march of evil death across the land. Meanwhile, they set off in the opposite direction, as would anyone sane when you meet the Harfoots. Galadriel gives up the knife because there's absolutely no other gold and silver from Valinor in the entire Middle-earth region, and they melt it. Oh, but what would I be without my dagger? This is my character arc, which we've just arbitrarily made, even though it doesn't make sense within the story, just so I can have an excuse to give up the dagger and prove that now I will find out what I am without the sword. The doors closing on the forge are the metaphor of her closing the doors on her previous life and advancing into a new evil direction, leaving behind her love of Sauron. You can tell through all of this that the showrunners think they're creating a masterpiece. And it's a piece of something, I'll tell you. But with that, they start forging the rings. Elrond and his dopey face decide to drop the mithril in, and this time it works because you've coaxed it rather than trying to force it. The mithril has a literal mind of its own, apparently. Are you saying the mithril is sentient now? We get an incredibly evil smirk off Celebrimbor. The power of the dark side! Galadriel's got an incredibly severe case of RBF, and Elrond's thinking, oh, I wish Jorin was here. But they pour out the metal, and in the cast, we get that. I gotta be honest, at this point, I was a bit surprised because I didn't know how on earth you turn that into a ring. I kind of expected you just to cast a ring, to be honest. But no, we've got our artisans. The true healers of the elves. And they start shaping and melting. Meanwhile, Elrond suddenly realizes, oh yeah, I really probably should find out what Galadriel was lying to me about. They start twisting all the wires together into a ring, and Elrond discovers the paper of lineage, that Halbrand can't be King of Mordor. So he runs back inside, panicking. Hopefully he's realized Galadriel is evil at this point. But is it too late? The rings have been made. The jewels, as ugly as they are being put inside them. You really probably should have cut the jewels first. Behold, gaudy jewelry. Oh no, I'm too late. Evil Galadriel has the rings. The power of the dark side. I'm actually being serious. The entire second half of this episode just purely reminds me of Star Wars. I do not think this feels like Lord of the Rings at all. I've got to say, they really don't look very, nice. I don't like any of those rings. They're all gaudy and horrible. They look cheap. The one ring was sort of simple. There was a simple beauty to it. That has a kind of elegance that I just don't think that these have. Not that I've ever really put much thought into, jewelry. So she looks at Elrond as if, oh, will you join me in the dark side? And his face changes. The The dark side. Now, at this point, he must have been able to put 2 and 2 together and realize that equals Sauron, and that she knows that it's Sauron. Should we just tell people about Sauron? No, I'll just leave this here. We're not going to mention it, or tell Celebrimbor about it, that these rings have just been created by Sauron. He is the reason for their existence. Doesn't any of you think that this is important information that people should know about? Don't you give a spinny camera at me. Answer the pigging question. I know you want this to feel epic, but it can't feel epic when you're not answering the pigging question. No, instead, we're going to warp into the eyes of Sauron and the volcano which has now arrived. Ironically, these are the lands which he's king of anyway, so he just went home. No one even wants to talk about Sauron. We're not even going to mention the horror that we've just given the world by creating the rings, which we only knew how to create because of Sauron himself. Why are we not talking about this? So Sauron walks off to the volcano, and we're just not going to talk about it. No one's even going to say the name. No one's even going to say the horror that they've just created. No one's even going to discuss it. Guess it's not important. Everyone's evil. I've said before that it seems like this show is created by people who have no moral compass, no sense of morality at all. Tolkien's world was meant to be about light and dark. These were two things that were separate. There wasn't all this grey stuff which you seem to be obsessed by in Rings of Power. I think that is probably why it felt more like Star Wars. That was a lot more outlawing people from the light over to the dark, that together we can rule. Whereas Tolkien's, it kind of wasn't. People could be corrupted by things, but they were still inherently good themselves. That's why Frodo could carry the ring in the first place, because he was inherently good, and it would wear him down over time. But it would have been a good person that was corrupted. It wouldn't have lured him into darkness. He still would have been a good person. He would have just kind of lost control of himself. That's the opposite of the story we got here. And the fact that multiple people can find out that Sauron's here, and that we just created the exact thing, we fulfilled Sauron's plan, and no one even says anything about it to anyone. We're just going to admire our evil handiwork. What on earth are you doing? And the scenes, the wasted scenes, the Harfoots in this series served no purpose at all. You could have cut all of the Harfoots out and the wizard and nothing would have changed, because it was entirely unrelated to anything else in the entire show. They only existed because the showrunners thought it wouldn't feel like Lord of the Rings if you didn't have hobbits in it. And what about the follow your nose line? Oh yeah, this is Gandalf. Why have you hinted at that? Are you even sure who he is yet, or are you going to change that depending on your figures? You're going to get Ian McKellen back later down the line if you need a viewer's boost. Because you haven't committed to anything, your story never really went anywhere. Although at least more happened in this episode than basically any others. You kind of realize, oh, our entire series is over. Quick, do something. We should probably make some rings in this thing called the Rings of Power. We waffled on for episode after episode, and then suddenly, quick, make them now, oh, we found it. I could only assume that you went so slow simply because you wanted the Sauron mystery box. You thought that that would be what people kept watching your show for, and it isn't. And I have to question how many people are still watching the show at this point when you had boring episode after boring episode. I don't think people will be very satisfied with the results of Series 1, and I mean both the viewers and the people that paid for it. I think most people can agree that Season 2 would need massive changes, but are we ever likely to see them? Season 2 has just started filming, and unless you've made severe changes to the people who actually are making the show, then we're probably just going to end up with more of the same, surely. The showrunners can come out and go, well, we've taken fan feedback on board, but with all the articles we saw of you defending the terrible decisions you made with your sarcastic responses, it doesn't look like you're going to take them on board because you're just too arrogant to do so. And that will inevitably lead to disaster once more, as you think you know better than the people you're trying to get money off. It's not the best business model in the world. So Season 1 is over. This was the finale, and it kind of lived up to what everyone expected, and revealed basically nothing of surprise. It was a predictable quality end to a predictable quality show. So congratulations, Amazon, on your $700 million show. I hope you're satisfied, because quite frankly, I don't think the audience is. But those are just my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know down in the comments below. Like the video if you like the video. Subscribe, more videos like this in the future, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.